Today is a very special day. We're playing Tomb Raider 1 Unfinished Business with the people who actually made the game. This is Phil Campbell. Phil, say hello.
Hello.
Phil, what did you do on Unfinished Business?
I created all the levels. In fact, did everything on the first one. And then probably had to argue with Mike Schmitt a lot because he was the producer. He didn't know me at the time, so he probably did a lot of pushback then. But quite honestly, over my history of 5 years of Tomb Raider, I learned how to manipulate Mike and get him to do my evil will. But yeah, I basically built all the levels in all 3 of the gold games, including Lost Artifact.
So basically, Phil is a master genius of everything we're going to play today, except for the textures. Rebecca Shearin, please introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. And yeah, it's a pleasure to be here today. And I could say, too, that it was really wonderful working with Phil Campbell and such a nice, kind producer as Mike Schmitt.
Mike Schmitt, we were just talking about you. I don't know if you heard any of those.
Oh, yeah, I heard everything. Hi, I'm Mike Schmitt. I'm excited to be here. Glad people are so interested in, all of this old Tomb Raider stuff. What is it, 25 years later? Or
nearly.
Like that?
We're going to start off with we're actually not going to play the Unfinished Business in the normal way, because Phil insisted we're going to play Atlantis first, because that's how it was supposed to be. But how come we are playing Egypt first in the actual game, Phil? How did that happen?
Yeah, I actually don't know how that happened. Probably one of Mike Schmitt's bad decisions or something. But I started back in '96. Rebecca and I were doing Blackwater, and they gave us these tools, what soon to become the Tomb Raider engine, and they said, why don't you try using this, and we'll use it for Blackwater in '96. Tomb Raider hadn't come out yet, and so they gave it to us, and I started building underground waterfalls and dams and all sorts of stuff. And Rebecca and I and Chris and a bunch of others developed a lot of concept, and it was all over the building. Like, we had walls and walls of it. And then one day, Adrian and Jeremy came over, the Smith boys, enjoyed looking at it, and next thing we knew, the whole project was cancelled. Everybody was fired except me and Rebecca. And they sent me to Derby. I arrived in Core on February 97, I think. And it was the day that Toby Gard and Paul Douglas announced they were leaving. So it was a very traumatic day. My first day in Derby, the entire Core original team, I think there was 6 of them at the time, or maybe a couple more, they surrounded me and they said, you're not working here. Go away. We don't accept you. No one else is doing Tomb Raider except us. And I always remember my first day, Adrian Smith, the younger of the 2 Smith brothers, and an incredibly nice guy, had to step in and kind of beat them back. So I started working on it in a room by myself, and nobody would talk to me. And I started, I was learning the level editor, so I started putting out some stuff, and they all hated it. But it was like one of those movies. I just kept working 24/7. I just sat in the office and kept building it, and they kept testing it, and I ended up, Neil, Heather, all of them, really having a great relationship with them, and I think they really liked the levels, and they got their seal of approval.
Okay, so AJ from Survivor Reborn, everyone, round of applause. He will be playing the game. You can tell that this was made by a different team, like Tomb Raider Gold packs. Like, they're very different in terms of level design. There's less of I don't know if AJ will agree with me on this, but there's less of go there to pull a trigger to go to another room, to pull another trigger to go to another room, to pick up the key to open the door in the first room.
Well, I was an architect, so everything is, I think, I was looking through a filter of being more an architect. So I liked the idea that you had a sense of foreshadowing, you had a sense of where you needed to go always. So there's a lot of depth in my levels where you move. You can see down through levels, you can see up through levels. These were the Atlantean eyes. And the trick here was that I put a little sound box for the centaur in these rooms, and so you could actually hear the centaur, but it's actually not there. It's actually down right at the bottom, and you can see it run down. The whole idea was to foreshadow her coming out into this area, which was man, I worked a lot on this area, because this was the key one. This was the one that won them over, I think. The core guys were swearing at me so much for making them so hard and putting so much stuff in them. But really, secretly, I designed them all to be played from no inventory right at the start, because other than guns and ammo, there wasn't a lot of pickups, right? So it really was kind of dull when you had everything, like the shotgun and the Uzis and everything, and then you went into a level, whereas I like to put them all in very creative places. And so I like people going straight in here just with the pistols. I think it's a good challenge. Oh, uh-oh. These are like the alien pens or something. I remember having an image in my head for every single area, that it meant something in the true architecture of the place. That eye shape is distinctively Atlantean, in terms of the world I was building here. I put so much time into that architectural feeling, and I did all those sketches of the opening area, and then as I was just building, it was like a test bed, but also, how many rolling balls could one person put in a single room? How much lava could you create in there's a big jumping lava fall area, and then trying to figure out how I could enhance the gameplay, like with the shotgun room, which is still one of my favorite Tomb Raider rooms. I think Mike screamed when he was testing that.
It looks spectacular. I think it looks artistically beautiful, the way the textures work in this game. They're grossly disgusting because they're kind of alien and Atlantis, but also at the same time they look more cyberpunky in the way and ancient in the way. It's such a weird mix. I love it.
Well, that's all down to core, really. I mean, it's their original vision. I just was going by the seat of my pants, just trying to, not disappoint people that wanted more. And obviously, there's a lot of talk back and forth about, Eidos and Core and that relationship. But people like us and our team, me and Mike and Rebecca and Chris and Gary, we were huge Lara fans, and so all we wanted was to do the best.
This level, I was cursing so much when I was playing it on my stream.
It's too hard. I designed it too hard, and Gavin and the rest of the core people that played it told me that too. And I had this vision for this alien tree, and so my textures and my modeling were getting more and more whack, really out there, far less orthogonal. But I ended up only doing a small part of it as alien tree because it was so hard it was so illegible to get round that. Well, look, it goes from the designer to the public, where the designer is thinking, what move is he going to move next? What is he going to think? What's the player going to do next? What's she going to do? And then the designer responds to that. But then the player is also thinking, what would the designer, if I jump, oh my goodness, oh you made, bad luck.
So close.
You know what, as well, I see somebody saying about Tomb Raider 5 Gold. And honestly, Rebecca and I would have just kept making these to the end of Kingdom Come, because we love making them. I mean, you get to write your whole adventure. You obviously have to plagiarize the previous Tomb Raider and get the pieces you need. Yeah. But then, because we had Gary on board, Gary was able to convert all the models. So that's why we had lots of new characters and things in Lost Artifact. Yeah, I'd completely forgotten about all of this. Who knows what that camera shot was? I was just doing them wildly at this point. Yeah, look at that. That's so terrible.
It's supposed to confuse you. That's the whole point of Tomb Raider.
Yeah, the first part of it.
What is supposed to do in Egypt? What is the story? Because what is she supposed to accomplish?
Well, obviously there was no story, and there was no cutscenes, and there was no setup, and we hadn't come up with that idea with the newspapers and stuff, which I think worked really well. And so all we could do was use environmental storytelling to tell the story of a cat treasure, really. And so it's implied that Lara is searching for the fabled cat treasure, and so the way you're supposed to storytell through the levels was cats can be good or bad. Alligators hate cats and cats hate alligators, so alligators are always where you would expect them, and as guardians, and every time you see a cat, follow it, right? Go where the cat is generally, and that was the way we kind of navigated through it. When we had to make the giant cat statue in this one, that was a real challenge, because who knew that we could make it quite so big and still keep a sense of gameplay, as you play around it, So Rebecca and I were always pushing it. That's why when we had the little bit outside in the desert, and eventually you'll hit the poison sand because obviously there are limits. But we really wanted to create an entire desert out there that you could just wander for days, like Lawrence of Arabia. Yeah, if you had that flying bug now, of course, you could just fly out into the desert and see where it goes.
That's a good point. Let's do that. Let's see what happens. What's that on the left?
I mean, yeah, there's a cat out there and there's some Uzis as well. But wait, because the sand...
there she just died.
But you didn't die there, so... I mean, I had to eventually make it... When you got to the edge, it was poison sand. I said that Lara was dying from heat exhaustion, but I thought for the people that got out here to have fun, you'd find there was a few enemies and stuff. Just keep away from the edges.
Okay.
Yeah. I think what Ash was saying over there to the right, I think there's a panther, and to be honest with you, we had so much fun with it that we just couldn't stop. That cat's having a great time just hanging out there. If I had the opportunity, to go back and do the Atlanta levels again, first I'd hire Rebecca to do my textures. I would definitely, edit the characters, edit the textures to make it even more unique. And I certainly would probably have a new plan for part 2, the alien tree and stuff. I mean, I might actually be better at doing it now. Oh, and I wouldn't put in as many annoying block puzzles as there are in this level. I can't remember what that was. I know there was an endless block secret in here. I was a bit of a sadist then.
Oh, look how pretty this is.
Do you remember Rebecca trying to figure out all those rocks around the outside and how the color palette's just beautiful? But I would always come in of a day and say, Rebecca, make some more rock textures.
They were my nemesis, I think, rock textures.
Thank you, Phil, Rebecca, and Mike for being with us today. Big honor. Any last, words from you three? What was the feeling to see your work being played and appreciated? My chat is mad today, seriously. Just
that it's nostalgic, but also it reminds me why I do this or why I did this. It reminds me why I teach this now. It's been a pleasure. I look forward to the next one.
Yeah, and thanks for putting it together, Ash. It was a pleasure being here.
No, thank you guys for, donating your time for us. We're very honored and very humbled to have you here tonight.